in downtown, the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I am here for a very special reason because today is actually the calendar day that 102 years ago the Tulsa Race Massacre occurred. I thought it would be um, in my interest of trying to be culturally and socially connected to what's happening, to be spiritually connected, to be historically connected to what's going on in society. I thought it'd be a good idea to be down here today to do this show. I'm supposed to be talking about church music, supposed to be talking about the scriptures and music. Um, that is coming. That'll be coming next week. But because today, literally, is the day, May 31st, that is cataloged as the beginning of the Tulsa Race Massacre. I thought I could put, and it'd be all right for me to put the music show on hold for just 1 week so that I could bring this show down here. What I want to do, because I'm again literally outside here, I want to show us a little bit about landmarkers and where we are. You can see the sign that this is literally Greenwood Avenue, and also been named Black Wall Street. Greenwood and Archer is the location where I currently am. These two streets are two of the three that mark what this area is about. There are three streets: Greenwood, Archer, and Pine Street. Um, they made up the actual demarcation line of what was the Greenwood district. Now, this area of town, the Greenwood district, consisted of a business district, which is where we currently are, but it is also Greenwood's a neighborhood where African Americans live in the early 1900s in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm going to turn the camera around, or at least get the view where you can see down the street of Greenwood, and you'll see on either side that there are businesses that have come back, have been rebuilt. There's been at least three rebuildings of the Greenwood district. You got to forgive this camera view because I want to show us some stuff, and for me to do that, it does not lend for the best in filming and that. But these are a list of the some of the building businesses that were here in Greenwood. That first picture was a drawing that somebody did commemorating Greenwood, and this picture is, if I can get the camera right, this is an image of Greenwood back in the 1920s. This is a continued list of businesses that were here in the Greenwood district as well. And you will see as I turn the camera this way, um, the hallmarks of cities that intend to destroy African American communities. That hallmark is a freeway that runs through what used to be part of the neighborhood of Greenwood, historic Greenwood district. I'm going to cross the street over here so you can see what is the newest um, addition to what some call the new Greenwood. It's a quote by James Baldwin that was that is on the north facing side of the new, what is called Greenwood Rising Museum. The quote says, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." But I want to walk around to the other side of this building, to the west side, so that you can see the name of the museum itself. There's some people stepped in. I don't know how well you can see it. Okay, there it is. Greenwood Rising. This is the um, museum, actually completed in 2021 for the centennial of the of Greenwood. Behind me is the southward view down Greenwood. All of back 102 years ago, all of those would have been black businesses in every direction we look. East, west side, down Archer, east side down Archer. All of these would have been African American businesses. I'm going to go back to my seat over here. And then, oh, I didn't show us the baseball stadium that was part of the state and city governments. There's a lot of bad words, descriptors that come in mind about this. But when the discussion of reparations came up in the late 90s and early 2000s, the state fathers and cities fathers' decision that because of what they considered an impossibility to determine who should receive reparations, their idea, which is generally what happens in states and municipalities that have to deal with and address to address reparations, they rush to efforts of reconciliation. And so the baseball stadium, I guess if I'm talking about it, I have to show it to us. The baseball stadium is actually been built and referenced as Reconciliation Park. There's a whole park area. That's the part of it behind me there. There's a whole park area, and there is in it, and it's a little too far down for me to walk to show us. That's why I'm only telling us and not taking us to it, not taking a walk down to it. But it was the decision that was made on behalf of state and municipal governments, since they could not determine how to pay reparations to the survivors. At that time, there were still about 100 survivors of the actual race massacre itself who were still alive. But they built this park, Reconciliation Park, as the state and the city's gesture of, again, not reparations, but reconciliation. So we got to back up. I see Sister Portia Osborne is on here. Hey, my sister. Good to have, yes, your old stumping grounds when you were a student here at Oral Roberts University. Let me first show you my T-shirt. This is my own design. This was the year of the centennial. It says Tulsa Race Massacre, a Holocaust. Never forget. And I want to highlight the two words there, a Holocaust, because I'm going to come back and address those two key ideas in a way that I intend to revolutionize your thinking when you think about the idea of Holocaust. But here's the story. For those who may not be informed or aware, I said earlier that 31st of May is cataloged as the day of the beginning of the race massacre in the sense of the violence that ensues. That is technically true. However, the preceding event that even caused what became understood as the massacre in the official story is that Dick Rowland, an African American 19-year-old male who worked as a shoe shiner outside of the Drexel building, went to use the restroom. The restroom's located in the higher floors of the Drexel building. He gets on the elevator where it is operated by a 17-year-old white woman, Sarah Page. When the elevator stops at the floor, it jerks as elevators would want to do, and especially as older models would have, When the elevator jerks, she screams. The doors open, and a white business owner runs to the door. And when Dick Rowland sees this man respond to her scream, this is 1920s in the United States of America, Dick Rowland runs. When he runs, this business owner makes an alert about him having somehow misappropriately having been engaged with Sarah Page. The white people are upset and all up in arms. And so they go. Dick Rowland is ultimately arrested and taken to the courthouse. When Sarah Page is brought in to sign an affidavit to make the statement about Rowland having misappropriately engaged her, she failed to sign it. She would not, and is recorded as saying, "He did nothing to me at all." However, the white community of Tulsa took it upon themselves still to seek vigilante justice in this trumped up about Dick Rowland and Sarah Page having assaulted her. This is May 30th when these events occur. The next day, the white community, white men, of course, having joined up a mob. LaFonda Robinson, so good to have you with us. There are a lot of tourists that are walking around down here too while I'm down here on Greenwood. Those of you who are just joining, Michelle BK, LaFonda Robinson, I'm down on Greenwood Avenue, the historic Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Today is the day 102 years ago that the race massacre, the Tulsa race massacre, actually occurred. And so that's why I'm here down on Greenwood on location. And I'm telling the story there. It is the next day, which would be today, May 31st. Dick Rowland is arrested on the 30th of May. On the 31st, a white mob gathers outside of the courthouse, outside of the jail, which is where the courthouse was, which is where the jail was. They wanted to extract Dick Rowland to lynch him. The word had been going out overnight and earlier in the day that that's what their intentions were. The black community heard about this. And so the African-American men, especially former or veterans, rather, of World War I, got their guns, and they, some 100 of them, went down to the courthouse to protect Dick Rowland so that the white mob in its thousands at this point could not take him and lynch him. It is reported that a white man says to one of the former soldiers, "What are you doing with that rifle?" To which the brother responds to him, "I'm here to make sure nothing happens to Dick Rowland." And the white man is reported as saying to him, "Like hell you are, nigger." And this is technical language. I'm a historian. I am reporting a historical account. The white man grabs the brother's rifle. A struggle ensues. And when a shot is fired, there is gunplay between the African Americans who have gathered. Hey, Mother Linda Vaughn, I'm down on Greenwood telling the story since this is the historic date. Glad to have you on here with us. Gunplay ensues between the African Americans who have come to protect Dick Rowland and the white mob who have come to lynch him. It is from that event, that first shot being fired, that all of what we understand as the Tulsa Race Massacre ensues. From that, the businesses and buildings of Greenwood, the homes of the black community in Greenwood, are first looted. They're broken into. The valuables and the businesses and the homes are all stolen. After the looting, or in the meantime of the looting, African Americans are being shot at will by the white mobs that have gathered. At this time, it's into the multiple thousands. Some estimated about 5,000 because the Ku Klux Klan had put out a call the night before and had alerted them to what the intention was in Greenwood. And I have to say that way, alerted them to what the intention was. Um, and I'm going to get to that very quickly. After the looting and the shooting of African American people, then the entire Greenwood district and community, 40 by 40 blocks, was completely razed to the ground, set on fire. And on what would be tomorrow, June 1st, in the morning, airplanes, private airplanes, fly over the area and drop incendiary devices, um, gas bombs, kerosene bombs on the rest of the neighborhood, and it is all gone up in flames. A couple of notes that I have to make. That is the story um, of what happens. My battery is running low. Oh, Lord, help me. Um, but here is what I need to say to us very, very quickly. Number one, when we talk about Holocaust, we have to understand what it is, because I consider the Tulsa Race Massacre a Holocaust. That's what my t-shirt says. A Holocaust is a mass killing or slaying, um, especially by fire or nuclear weapons. Now, what I've described to you is of the killing of the people. The first official number was, I think, 30 is what they said. It became true to realize that 300 was a more accurate number personally. And after having done research with others, the number could be really in the 3,000s of those who lost their lives. But when you talk about Holocaust, it is a wrong assumption to understand, as most of the world does, and has happened by great marketing in certain quarters, that the Jewish Holocaust is the only Holocaust. Absolutely not true. If you are sensitive and understanding of history, you'll have to recognize that more than one Holocaust has occurred. And the Jewish Holocaust is not the first, and there were not more people killed even in that one. The African Holocaust is the longest and most enduring Holocaust regarding those who have been taken as prisoners of war from the continent of Africa. What has happened during the Middle Passage, all the deaths in the taking from the continent in the Middle Passage, and that continues to African Americans. There's an African Holocaust. On these shores, sisters and brothers, the Native Americans experienced the Holocaust. It's how we got America. More than some 280 million natives were on these shores when the European came. Their numbers were decimated to less than 100 million in a matter of some 20 years. There are two Holocausts there, and then there is the Tulsa Massacre, which I say to you is a Holocaust. And so when you hear people talk about Holocaust, as a student, as an astute person of history, you have to ask the question, which one are you talking about? If they don't know, at least you be informed, sisters and brothers. One of the things that I want to leave us with, as I hope my battery will participate with me, I'm on just some fumes with this. Let me know your interest about this subject. Thought partners and conversation partners are what I'm always inviting to be a part of this. Tell me what you think, what you know, what you heard, what you want to know about the Tulsa Race Massacre. We can pick up next time. Obviously, we're coming into June, which in the middle of the month, we'll experience Juneteenth. And I'm going to be talking with us about Juneteenth as well, ways that it may or may not be connected to what we understand here as Tulsa Race Massacre, but is all connected because it's African American. It is American history. I want to thank you for joining me tonight. And I'm going to sign off because I don't want this computer to cut off on me. But this is Darren Williams live from the Greenwood district of Tulsa, May 31st, 2023, and giving you another view of what Greenwood looks like on today. Let me hear you in the chat and in other places about what you think about what was shared with us today on Greenwood. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to be with us next week, Wednesday, 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yes, Sister Portia, it has changed. It's changing a lot. And what's happening all across the country is happening even here on Greenwood, which is gentrification. Some of the first businesses that started coming back here in the rebuild of Greenwood, of course, were white businesses. I didn't tell us where I'm sitting in front of. I'm literally sitting in front of the Greenwood Chamber of Commerce. This is the place where when you come to do business, if you want to do business here, you've got to come to this location. And the more things change, the more things stay the same. So even though that horrific massacre has taken place, there's a whole lot of other details about this story in its occurrence and even its aftermath that would literally blow your head back. One of those things, and I'm playing against my battery going out. One of those things is the fact that it was published in the Tulsa newspaper at that time, which I believe is the Tulsa Tribune, that they will never allow another Black Wall Street, another Greenwood to exist in Tulsa. Printed in the daily paper. Not only that, 2 years later in 1923, the Ku Klux Klan set up its largest district right a few blocks, about 3 blocks away from where historic Greenwood was. And their intention again was to ensure that there would never be a Greenwood, Oklahoma, a Black Wall Street again. And we can talk again the next time about what happened to that and what went into that. Because what happened on Greenwood, even though the Dick Rowland and Sarah Page story was used as the ruse, the plans, and this was discovered in the 1970s in a file cabinet in the police department in the basement, that the plans to destroy Greenwood had been going on years before it actually occurred. Maybe I'll get to tell you sometime about what happens to Dick Rowland and Sarah Page after the fact, because his great aunt says that they were actually a couple. And so that there was not anything precarious that was going on between them in any negative sense at all. But the history books, all of the stories that are told about them, very few say anything about what happens to them after the fact. And we'll get to talk about that another time. So again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me down on historic Greenwood Avenue in the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma. See you next week for Love and the Scriptures. Bye now.